Hello and welcome to Confidently Wrong, a show by regular dudes talking with confidence about content we have no right to speak about with any kind of authority, but do it anyway. I'm Wesley Nakamura, and as always, I'm joined by award-winning director Brian Redondo and Savon Jones, aka Captain Bonnie. This is episode 154, and we go laser vision to laser vision about The Boys Season 4. I'm confident that it's going to be the best show you've ever listened to, and well, hey, if it's not, you can always ask us for a refund.
Incredible!
Hello, gentlemen. Welcome. Yo, it's so hot. I hope you guys are having less hot weather than us, but it sounds like everywhere in the country is just obliterated right now. It's like 95 degrees here, and it's 10 o'clock at night or something right now. Ridiculous.
Oh, thank you for the tilt down to your crotch.
Yeah,
was that the answer? That was
swamp,
the response.
Are you
to the
saying
hotness?
you got swamp crotch right now? Is that what's going on?
It's hot. Here's my junk.
We can't hear you. I don't even know what's happening, but
it is hot as nuts right now. It's insane. It was incredible. It was incredibly hot in Detroit too. Very unseasoned. Yeah, it's intense everywhere, dog.
And you got visited by a good friend of the show, Kendall.
Oh yeah, we was chilling. Got to show him some of Detroit. Check out some stuff downtown Marketplace.
What was the highlight? Give us one thing y'all did.
Tell us all the white guy stuff you guys did.
We didn't do white guy stuff. All right. We went out to this nice music venue called Spotlight that has really good live DJs, and like it was a nice mix of house music plus like some funk R&B. Had a very good night of just music and dancing. That was I think very
well. And I know you're into music, and Kendall's in the music industry, so I'm sure that was a good time.
A good time was had by all.
What is your go-to dance move in those situations?
I'm a fan of just the classic old man two-step, and then.
He's 6'8". I mean, he doesn't need to stand out.
Is your two-step the equivalent of someone else's like 12-step?
No, it's just like a little but
is it 3-step? You heard me?
But my dance theory has always been if you make a stank face or any type of look of disgust, it enhances. Yeah. Which Brian, you're a real dancer, you get it.
Absolutely,
if you got it, you get it. If I'm stank facing, that's so like
he's feeling it.
So I would say I have average dance moves, but I'm actively engaged and I have good body language and I stank face, so it elevates it.
And you got a fit on usually that's noticeable.
Yeah, it's like am I a great dancer? No, but I'm doing all the other things on the peripheries to uplift my dancing.
The whole package. It's about the whole package.
It's all about aura, and it sounds like you are emanating good vibes.
Am I going to hit you with some advanced moves? No. But I will never just be blatantly offbeat, and I'll always be able to just, hey, I can catch a beat.
Okay. I definitely get off.
I'm not a wallflower.
I am. Brian's seen me. Brian's like, okay, I'm leaving now. Bye.
I don't know if I've even seen you. Are you there? This dude is at home on the couch.
Oh, good stuff.
I am a homebody. Brian, you literally just hopped out of the car after driving 1 billion miles, jumped on the pod.
I did.
Are you alive?
I did.
Are you road blind now?
I
Squinting.
I am still moving forward through life.
Oh, like when you're on a boat and you're just waving around.
I'm swerving.
Nice.
And I'm moving at 75 miles per hour. As we speak.
You had the Camry floored the entire time.
The RAV4, the 2005 RAV4 that is now 20 years old.
Yo, before we graduated.
I'm just waiting for it to die, and then I'm going to leave it on the side of the road, take the license plate.
Let nature retake
like
it.
The Last of Us.
Erase the VIN number and peace out.
You got to file it off.
The true ghost.
I mean, why you got to go through all that? They don't care. But I guess you get fined for the tow or something at some point. That's stupid. All right, let's do it. This episode, I am actually really excited. I was telling Savon, this is the most I've ever been into this show, and we're in its 4th season. The previous seasons I've enjoyed, but not like loved. I am loving this show. So we are talking about The Boys Season 4. So far, as of today, they've dropped 4 episodes on us, 3 on the first week, and then this past week they released 1 more. So I think we're technically halfway through the series, even though by time wise we're not, because we'll still have about 4 or 5 more weeks to go here. It's if for those who aren't familiar, it's a grotesque, hyper violent, ultra sexualized satire on superheroes and society. The Boys season 4, Eric Kripke, he's the creator, I think that's how you say his name, Kripke, has said this will be the second to last season, the penultimate season, and so
Thank
this season
goodness.
and next season will be it. I don't know how much more of the exploding bodies we can take.
No, I can take a lot of exploding bodies. I just want consequences.
Exactly. The status quo.
You don't like the reset on every season.
Foiled again. Yeah, the status quo is very much always upheld.
Yeah, the boys end up making a little damage, but Homelander, does something, one of the 7 dies, yada, yada, yada. It's kind of how the formula has been going. How hype on a scale of 1 to 10 were you for this season, Savan?
I wouldn't say I was particularly hyped. And that's not to say that the show is like doing anything wrong, but as Brian kind of alluded to, and if you listen to past episodes where we talked about the boys, I think Brian and I shared the same critique that for how long this show has been running, there haven't been a lot of major status quo shifts or needle movers for characters and the things they've done. And that can, that can kind of start to lower the stakes a little bit because none of the boys have even died yet, or even gotten like grievously, I don't know. That was, my hype. I was kind of just like, we'll see what happens, but I wasn't particularly excited for one thing over another because there's certain beats you kind of just know are going to happen with a boy season. But I am excited knowing that the 5th is going to be the last season because in our last episode with the last season, we said there should be up to like another, it should be like a 5 and then it should end there because there's just nothing left to say. So, I didn't have a lot of hype, but I wasn't not excited either.
All right. Yeah, it wasn't really on my radar that much. I was like, it's fine. I mean, I'm probably at like a 5 out of 10. I'm like, I'm going to watch it, but I'm not someone who has to watch it on like day 1. In fact, I think I didn't watch the first 3 episodes until about a week after it released. Brian, what scale of 1 to 10 were you at in terms of being ready for the show?
I was wondering if we're even going to talk about it or have to watch it and talk about it on this podcast because we've done 3 seasons of The Boys already, and like,
God, we have
good. I enjoy the show. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy the show, but is it the thing that we're dying to watch? I think there's another show that came out this June that we're all more eager to see, and it's not The Boys. Am I right? Am I right?
Wait,
Am I right?
What show are we talking about?
We're talking about the show that we're trying to watch after we record this episode.
Oh, yes, duh. Yes, duh. Oh, absolutely.
We're trying to see what's going on with Team Green and Team Black.
Damn straight. That's real so NBA Finals.
I mean, I'm like a little bit of a zag, right? So I am not that excited about House of the Dragon. We're going to talk about it a little bit, tiny bit on the next episode, but I don't know. I'm like, it's just like these people like arguing about like, who should
save
be on
your
the throne,
cold takes
like,
for the next episode.
None of them should be on the throne, so whatever. And they keep messing it up. Like, just do what you got to do, guys.
Come on, nice.
All right, let's get.
that was a bunch of word salad.
Wait, wasn't he in this show? The guy who played Iceman in the original X-Men, wasn't he in the show like season 1 or season 2?
Yeah, he played
was he?
Lamplighter, the Flame Dude. Yeah, I think his name was.
Yeah. That was season 1.
Mm-hmm.
From the X-Men movies?
He
was
played
Lamplighter?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What's his name? He's on the show that me and Jen watch called The Rookie.
Yeah,
and
Sean.
He has like a bigger play.
Yeah, Sean Ashmore.
That's right. Yes. Wait, is he also? No, he's not in Gilmore Girls. That's a different guy. All right. So spoilers will be happening. Savan had to actually let his company know that spoilers would be happening so they could prepare themselves, put on headphones, get out the room. So beware. At the start of the season, MM is now in charge of the boys. They're all still trying to take down Vought. They're still trying to figure out how to get rid of Homelander. Their plan with Soldier Boy backfired, didn't work. And they kind of sabotaged themselves too because Butcher wouldn't let him explode with everybody in there. Victoria Newman, who is the lady who can pop people's heads, she's like about to be vice president, and that's bad news for everybody because they know that she's going to kill the guy who actually won the presidency to assume his role. Butcher is now sick; he's dying because he took Temp-V. Is that right?
Yeah.
In the last season or last 2 seasons, and it's caused some kind of like brain tumor or something, and it's making him like only have 18 months to live or something like that. Huey, Frenchie, Kimiko are kind of the same. Yeah, and then I think it later on we find out it's now like 6 months left to live, so we've had a little bit of a time jump, I think, between last season and this season. Starlight is now refusing to wear the mantle of Starlight. She just wants to be known as Annie. Homelander is just doing his best to raise Ryan, and he's awful at it. He's trying to show him how to be a superhero, how humans are awful, or not awful. They're like, they don't matter. They're cockroaches. So he's basically like, what's his name?
Toys
not Norm.
for their amusement. That's what he's saying.
Yeah. He calls them toys for their amusement. I think that's the name of the first episode, in fact, or second episode. And he's like the guy in like Omni-Man, right? Basically, just like you don't matter. Like, you're not on my timeline. You're not on my scale. I don't worry about you in the same way humans don't think about ants, all that much. And he's also now like basically the CEO of Vought Industries, and so he's just trying to make himself more powerful and take over the world, basically, or take over the United States. So there's a lot going on working into this season. Everyone in the show, though, by the end of episode 4, Brian, I don't know if you've seen episode 4 yet. Everyone in the show has kind of been upended by the consequences of their past choices that we've seen on the show or that were predating the show. Which characters have grabbed your attention in the first few episodes that you have seen? Brian, where are you at?
Homelander. He is the show.
Oh, 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, like, do we care about Frenchie? do we care about Frenchie having a relationship? Do we really care about Kimiko? No, they are side characters. Why we come to watch The Boys is for Homelander. Because Homelander is a fascinating psychological study of mania, megalomania, egomania,
all the manias,
like corporate demagoguery, like everything, like white guy in America, MAGA loving, like I'm, I should be entitled, like all this stuff all rolled into this one character, and he's also Superman. So and the guy that plays him, phenomenal. Like, he was born to play this role as Homelander. So every season, and partially one of the problems with the show is that Homelander remains untouched because they know he's so good. He's so crucial to what makes this show entertaining. And I think the power just went out in my mom's house.
Well, we just had some crazy technical difficulties. Me and Savan were hanging on every word that Brian just said.
He's talking his stuff.
And then he disappeared. And we just got a text from him, and he said the power went out. So he may or may not be back in this episode. We'll see. But we'll continue on without him. We'll soldier on like good little soldier boys, and keep it going. Sav, who's grabbed your attention so far? You've seen all the first 4 episodes, right?
Uh-huh.
Who's grabbed your attention so far? I guess you could pick Homelander again if you feel so inclined.
I mean, Homelander's the only real answer. Like lots of the other characters are interesting. They have cool things about them. All that's like nice, and they'll be cool in their own show. They're well acted. To Brian's point. Who cares about Frenchie? I'm like, Frenchie's a cool character. I like what he does. I like his role in the story. He's never going to be the most interesting character, and that goes for Huey. That goes for Butcher. That goes for, Starlight. Like, these characters are cool, and the actors do a great job, and they give them solid material. They're all great. But like Brian said, Homelander is just such a interesting and fascinating character, and just that he's the central antagonist and he's the most compelling character. So it's hard it's not that I don't care about everybody else, but he's by design going to always have the best material. I mean, look at episode 4. They gave everybody lots of really good moments that were like, Huey got some legit good character development and stuff he had, but it just pales in compared to the Homelander plot of that episode that just stole the show, because Homelander's more interesting, man. He's more interesting. More stuff has happened to him, and he's more dangerous, and that just makes for a super powerful, like in terms of actual power and just existing at the head of like a CEO corp, one of the most powerful corporations in the world. Like, it's a more interesting character, man. So like, why would I want to watch? Why would I want to watch the guilty French guy, like the self-loathing French guy with a drug problem, when I could be watching Homeland?
I hear you. I disagree a little bit in that Homelander in some ways is also one note, right? Like,
I don't think so.
It's a cool note and it's a strong note. It's a terrifying note, but in some ways it is sort of just one note of like, oh, you know that like you're just going to be terrified and horrified by what he can do, and we're waiting to see what he's going to do, right? At all times of like, whoa, is he going to just murder somebody right now? Because that's possible. And then when he doesn't, that kind of surprises us, right? But in terms of like who he is and how he's developing, he isn't really developing in some of the ways that some of the other characters are. And so I agree 100% with what you've said in terms of he is magnetic, and we are completely like on the edge of our seats anytime Homelander is on the screen. It is like unbearable sometimes to watch what's happening, especially when we get to season 4 and we're like, whoa, wow, like that, ooh, and we're just sort of like, that's horrific, and we saw that coming. Like, you could tell that was coming. Like, it wasn't hidden, and everybody in the room knew it was coming, and that's just how it goes, and like that's who he is. But we've also, I think in some ways too, we've also seen that a lot, right, from him. And so the thing that has been capturing my attention has been some of the other things going on around them, like Huey having to face his mom has been sort of an interesting, like, new layer on top of Huey and his anger at her, and his like he's actually has the courage to say like, you left, right? And like that moment where she has to confront this, she can explain it all she wants, right? And she knows like, I made the right choice for me at the time, but she still has to deal with like, that had a huge impact on Huey, and it clearly still affects him, even though it's been 20 years or whatever, 25 years since she left, and he's still not over, right? He still remembers the moment she left, right? And she doesn't know all of the like day-to-day thoughts that he had, and the way that he papered over, and the way that he had to be strong for his dad. And you just see her like break down. She's just like like a tiny bit, right? And she feels awful about it. She's not someone who's like, well, too bad, kid. She actually feels like horrible about it. And that dynamic between the two, and Huey not having any therapy, but still having to figure out, how do I move on from this? How do I like forgive my mom for doing this thing that like no one ever deserves to have happen to them? And how do I like, as an adult, have to let that go in some ways? And we start to see he's starting to make some of that progress, but the moments between those two have been like actually like really interesting to me, because I'm like, man, that is just like such a fucked up position to be in. And yeah, you might have your reasons as the mom, but like that, it like doesn't matter to the kid, right? And like, how many people are in that position and can relate to that like difficulty, or that just like no-win situation that they're in. Like, I was like tearing up watching the mom tear up, because I was like, oh, like, like 25 years, you can't do anything about it now. It's done. Like, what you did is done, right? And you might regret it. You might feel bad about it. Like, now you got to sit in that. And I didn't expect this show to go there.
There's just so much more interesting shit happening in the show than that. Like,
okay,
I don't know, man. Like, it's not poorly acted or nothing, but it's just, there's just so many other subplots that are, you got the government and public eye manipulation stuff, the stuff with Sister Sage, the stuff with Ryan, Butcher dying. I don't know. Even that stuff to me is more interesting than like Huey being mad at his mom. Like,
that's interesting, because you're talking about like plot stuff. You're like interested in like the action that's happening, like the machinations of everything, and like you want to see like how these things play out. And like, honestly, there's some part of me that like, reason I love this season the most is because they've leaned so heavy into what the characters are actually conflicted about as people, and there's like such a much more microscope. That's not a right sentence, but there is such a microscope on them as characters and them as people within the show that I think the show hasn't done as much of before. Just like unbelievable stuff and acting, like you said.
Yeah, it just would be better in a show that was not like this superhero drama stuff. Like, because I don't disagree at all about it being very well acted, it being well written, it being very captivating. Like, all of the stuff with Huey and the stuff with his mom is, from a character perspective, interesting, but that's just not what I watch The Boys for. There's other shows that I would watch if I wanted that type of story to be told to me. And it's not to say that I don't still want those character heavy moments, because they obviously are good ways to balance out all of the ridiculous action and drama and blood and all that. But again, not all plot lines are created equal. Like, again, I like Huey. He's well acted, but like, how consequential is Huey to like just how this plot has moved forward? And maybe this goes back to what me and Brian talked about before, of there being a lack of consequences. Maybe the lack of consequences also makes it harder for me to care about certain characters' problems, because I feel like nothing ever really changes. But I don't know. I think it's well done, but I just think there's just more interesting characters and stuff. Like,
well, I think
I like
storyline is going to have a big part to play in the last second half of the series.
And I don't disagree.
Like him, his dad, all that. So, which characters or plot threads then do you have like notes for at this point?
I mean, yeah, a lot.
You're like the whole.
Yeah, a lot of the Huey. No, a lot of the stuff with Huey is just, it's kind of boring in the context of the show about all the other stuff that's going on. I just don't care about Huey Mama, who pop up out of nowhere after all these years, or his dad, who we barely see, suddenly be in the house. Like, it almost felt like we had to give Huey something to do, so we had to pull this rabbit out the hat. But it kind of feels left fieldish, and I just don't care. There's like a whole global conflict, or potentially a world-ending type thing is about to happen. I don't care about a dude who's mad at his mama because she ran off. Like, dude, they got other people who got way bigger things going on, no offense, and I just don't think that needs to be taking up as much of my screen time as it is. Like, I care more about A-Train. I care a little bit about Kimiko, and her stuff isn't super, super interesting too. But there's just at least 4 other characters whose side stuff I care more about than Huey. And I like Huey, but it's just like, oh, he's a main character, so I'm just going to have to deal with this. I'm going to have to deal with him just being salty at his mom. Wow. Something that we've just seen for the last 4 episodes of him just being mad at his mom.
We are on opposite sides of the spectrum. I am loving the details here around that.
I'll watch a different show for that.
But it's on this show. It's awesome. Brian, where are you at?
You love Huey and his mom? Like, wah, Huey? Really?
I do. Just the like pain.
I can't get behind
the pain on all of their faces. It's the most grounded aspect of the show.
It feels really minuscule.
Really?
Yes, you have a god megalomaniac about to plant a government coup.
So I think the only thing that I would say is like, so far I've been like really captivated by everything that's happening. Butcher, Ryan, Homelander, Starlight, like all of that stuff is like really interesting to me. I think the only one maybe that I wish they could flesh out more, and maybe they will, is like where MM is in all this. Like we're seeing him be the leader, but not necessarily seeing like where he's been struggling with that or what he's actually fighting for more deep down. And we know that it's about his daughter. We know that it's about like his wife, but you know, like it'd be nice if they showed us some of maybe the older stuff between him and Butcher and like how their relationship came to be. Cause they're obviously like in this, like we're on again, off again bromance. But like, we're not sure like why they actually feel beholden to each other at all in the first place. And so, I mean, I think that'd be interesting at some point to explore that, but I mean, so far it's been great. So every scene that we've seen so far to me has been like really well paced and really like, packed with information, packed with feeling, packed with like depth to it. So very cool. The show has more than before, I think, leaned into current events with like direct references to Alex Jones, who else? Kanye, Saving America, like Making America Great, that kind of thing. January 6th, like really into like they made a whole thing about conspiracy theories and how you can sort of exploit people's like wanting to believe these conspiracy theories. Is all of that, like the pedophile references, things like that, is all of that like working for you, Brian? Has that like sort of current day world being thrown into the boys world, is that okay, or is that taking you out? Because I feel like for me it's actually taking me out, that they've sort of like lifted all these people and direct things. I wish they sort of would just make them up sort of like the way they've done for Homelander and them. Just give them fictional names in the show. You don't have to like specifically reference January 6th. They could have just said January 11th or something and been like, okay, cool, we get it. Just like sort of to keep it within the universe rather than bringing our universe mishmashed with this universe that we know is not the same as ours. So it just feels like they're trying to have a fictional universe, but with a few real people in it. And I don't know. To me, that was just like, it grated on my brain because I was like, oh, I already have all this baggage around these other people. And like, you could have just made it the thing, I don't know. Sav, you were looking skeptical though. It's not messing with you that they're bringing in sort of like real world references in along with like into this like boys universe.
No, I don't care about that part. The part I care about is that there's just zero subtlety. Like, I don't really care if you mishmash our world, whether you use stand-in names, real people. I don't care if you do Alex Jones or Alex Jones with different letters or a different sounding name. That doesn't really go lean one way or another for me. But the show, and this show has really always been about, frankly, the show has always been guilty of this, but I think it's more popular. It's more apparent now just because of how the world has changed. But there's just a very clear lack of subtlety with the points they want to make and the things they want to make fun of, to where it feels like someone just took a bingo board, and I could just make a bingo board of just almost right-wing stereotypes, and the show is going to find a way to like reference it. But I think in a way that doesn't really have any nuance. It's more of just, hey, this is a group of folks who are very easy and, frankly, for me, rightfully made fun of. But if it's done in a way that's like lacks subtlety, it's kind of, to me, just feels like a low-hanging fruit. So it's like, I don't mind if they're parodying and making fun of these things, but just referencing it doesn't mean that you did something good or something that's quality entertainment. You need to also like make it interesting, make it compelling. I think there's moments where they did that, but I think a lot of times it felt like more of a, hey, here's a stereotype, a current event thing. Let's throw it in there because that's what we do, rather than, hey, this is something that really, frankly, is necessary or adds to the plot or yada yada. So yeah, that's the big thing. It just felt low-hanging fruit is the biggest takeaway you should have from that. It's just like some of the jokes, like, this is a joke, but this is like the easiest. Like, oh, you're at the conspiracy convention calling the, crazy old white dudes incest right next. I'm like, yeah, I guess that's a joke, but it's just that's like, this isn't like, it's just, it's not clever. There's no subtlety or cleverness to it. So that kind of just makes it fall flat with me.
I do like that they're using Sage as a way to like ultra push the polarization between like these two camps, right? And these two camps are representing obviously like two different factions of American society. But it's giving the show a ticking time bomb of sorts, right? And not the like Butcher is gonna die ticking time bomb, but like the more she's pushing on these two groups, the more that like there's going to be an outbreak of violence that is going to be like catastrophic for the people living in this universe. So I do like that, like they're capitalizing on having all of these like polarizations of these groups to push our urgency to like get this thing figured out and to somehow stop Sage's plan. we have like taken. I'm like disappointed that you guys have like not been as into this show, man. I've like been loving this season so
No,
far.
I'm enjoying the season, but the things that I'm critical of are very apparent in there, which were critiques I had in previous seasons too. But like,
Yeah.
I still like the show. I'm watching the hell out of it. I'm excited for a lot of stuff, but the stuff I don't like, I'm very keen on.
Okay. I'm also noticing that like I've been growing out this beard for like a while, like at least since school ended and probably before that. And your beard is like 18 times more filled in and, you know, poofy. So I got some work to do to catch up to my guy Savon here. I don't even think I could catch up to you.
Yeah, I think I cut my last haircut was like a month and a week ago. A little bit
And that's
over
when
a
you
month
shaved
ago.
the side part of your beard.
Mm-hmm.
Because you kept the goatee last time, I think.
Yeah, I usually keep
Yeah.
that. And
Whew.
we lost
That is a
one.
thick beard. You're getting to be like, I don't know, like 2000 like 15 James Harden, something like that.
Nah, the sides aren't nearly as filled in.
Pre
even
like
there,
Santa
but
Claus beard Harden, you know. Anyways, we take the violence in this show like for granted. It's a given. You're seeing a boys show, a boys universe show. You're gonna get people exploding. You're gonna get people's penises, you know, things like that. And they've shown that they'll pretty much show anything, throwing up, vomiting, whatever, people getting opened up, people getting their faces popped off, whatever, right? And it's happening in this episode or in this season too. Do you feel like after 3 seasons of that and now into the 4th where that hyperviolence is still there, is it starting to lose like the effect that it had in that first season for you? Or do you think it's still like it's important that the show maintains just that gruesome nature of the show? Brian, I don't know if you heard any of that, but how's the violence and nudity doing for you?
I love all the violence and all the nudity. It's the thing that makes the show. Isn't it? They are just trying to one up themselves and be creative as much as possible. They've set this roadmap and they keep taking us to new places that you didn't know they could take you. Like seeing a human centipede on Amazon Prime with Multiple Man himself being every node of that human centipede. Come on, that is hilarious. That is just really imaginative stuff. We did not need to see him doing that. They did not need to point out that he had pink eye afterwards.
Did nothing for the plot.
But it was fantastic. And also, equally fantastic, were all the figure skaters who maimed each other on the ice for no reason at all. Just because it was gruesome. It made you feel queasy, but it was laugh out loud hilarious when it happened. And
Jesus was just slicing dudes.
This is the stuff that brings me back to the boys. This is the stuff that makes this show an entertaining watch. So I am glad that they're finding new forms of depravity to reach for and reach around for, actually.
I actually thought that they've in some ways pulled back 10% and they've started to deploy, it doesn't seem like, the violence in sort of the just like gratuitous nature. And the exception to that, I think, was that ice skating scene or that ice capade scene where they were sort of just like comically slicing each other up and slicing each other's fingers off.
Sliced a throat getting out the ice ring.
Really nothing that would actually happen in real life. But I think besides from that scene, I think every scene that we've seen so far that's been like uber violent has been a way to teach us something about that character, how they've changed, or about like something new that's coming. And I mean, like Butcher, we learned that he might have some powers that are similar to Newman's, right? We're not sure because he blacks out and we don't get to see it, but we see the aftermath, and maybe that's his power has come in or something like that. We've seen Homelander in episode 4. Brian, you haven't seen it yet, but you know, he has one scene where he absolutely goes Homelander. And it's actually several scenes, and he's just going Homelander on these people, and it teaches us about his possible weakness. So Savan was talking about how like Homelander doesn't seem to take any licks. but he does seem to have a
Wait,
weakness.
when I said that, he got his ass beat last season. They made him bleed.
Oh, well, I thought you said that he wasn't really getting scratched.
Not him. No, I mean he's not suffering consequences from his actions. Like,
yeah,
he still has his solid public persona. He's not a public enemy. Even for the trial, he thought something was gonna happen with the trial, and it's like, oh, he's innocent. I'm like, oh well.
I mean, that feels
They
very
resolved.
Trump-like.
Yeah, but they resolved. Trump was guilty, but they resolved that pretty
Teflon.
quickly.
Yeah.
So, I'm in terms of like actual things happening that affect his standing in the world, not like he got beat up though. They jumped him. What? All last season he was getting his ass.
Okay.
Last season Homelander was getting beat up by everybody. Huey, Soldier Boy, Butcher, Maeve. He was a kind of a jobber that season.
Jobber. Even like Newman's daughter having that horrific set of powers where her mouth turns into like snakes that are garbage disposals. I don't even know what they are. I mean, they're just wicked. Like, that's horrific, and it just like illustrates like how far this lady is willing to go to accomplish her goals, and she's willing to do that to her daughter and turn her into like an abomination, right? And
she's Goose from Captain Marvel. The cat with the tentacles.
It is like that.
One of the predators mixed with a xenomorph.
It's horrendous. And she is deadly. She's a lethal character. And so I've actually felt like so far this season they've used all their ammo so far in the first 4 episodes to actually like show us who these characters are through these hyper-violent scenes. And so it takes on just that slight more layer of, okay, this is like, there's a point to this rather than the point is just the violence. Mm-hmm. And obviously that is part of it, but I don't know. I think this series, they've done a better job, to me at least, planning and thinking about like what is this hyper-violence supposed to be about in this scene, and where does it push the viewer to go. And I think they've done actually a much better job in this season. I don't know if you guys agree with that. Sav, do you agree? Or do you feel like it's still kind of the same, just like we're seeing penises, cut them up, whatever?
I've actually always been pretty neutral to the violence and sex stuff in The Boys. Like, I kind of recognize it as this is a part of their brand and their aesthetic of what they go for, but that's not really what makes or breaks the show for me. For me, it's more of the larger story and the larger conflict. Like, that's really what draws me into The Boys. I don't really care about like nudity or hyper-violence in a fight. I've always kind of cared from the beginning of what's going to happen in this world of superheroes and humans and soups that's clearly going to be on a crash course. And like, I guess I've been excited most for what's probably going to be the end of this season / whatever is the lead part of the next season of this is all a big tinderbox. When is this going to pop off? A lot of the other stylistic stuff I've been fairly neutral to because that's just not why I watch this show.
Okay. So you think it's about like intention, about like you as the audience member or you as the viewer, that sort of changes how you sort of judge those scenes.
It's like one of those, it doesn't take away from the show at all, but it's one of those, that's not what I'm excited for. Like, I was like in episode 4, I was more excited for the dialogue Homelander had with the people at the place he was at than the violence involved there or any of the other like violent stuff that happened in the episode. Yeah, that stuff wasn't bad, but it was that character moment and how that ties into what I think is going to be the larger in-game conflict. That's like, oh, this is where I'm really, or with Butcher, right? He has something weird going on with his body. I'm really caught up into that because it ties into, is he going to die? And how is that going to tie into this final conflict? Plus, we know even from Gen V, right, that there's still that whole Godolkin virus thing that's in the plot floating around. Like, that's the stuff that I'm really here for. So, again, violence, sex, all that I don't have any complaints about it, but you could take all that out and that wouldn't affect how I feel about the show.
Interesting, because that's like a big part of the show.
Yeah, but like, okay, put it like this. There's lots of moments where people have violent things happen and that's fine. But The Boys, unlike other shows, because other shows can have hyper violence too, but they do quick cuts, right? They cut away from things at the moment of impact. things are shown at angles that implies what happened, but you don't explicitly see it.
This is not implied violence.
Yeah, but my point is, so it's not really that violent things are happening to characters, because there's lots of violent stuff in shows. They just find ways to maybe not have it in your face. The Boys just doesn't have any subtlety. That's they purposely by design don't have subtlety. But I'm just neutral to it. So they can keep doing what they're doing. I know that's an audience who really likes that part of the show. That was one of the things in the comics that I wasn't a fan of, but this show does a bunch of other things right to where that's not a detriment.
All right, so
I didn't need to see that human centipede on screen though. That was for nobody. That no one.
That was
asked
for
that.
everybody.
That no one asked
Everybody.
for that.
That was so fun.
It's similar to when you had the Ant-Man dude Termite last season, who blew up a man from the inside of his colon or butt. It's just one of those cool.
Wait, wasn't it the urethra?
Oh, yeah. Oh God,
way
you're right.
worse.
that was awesome.
I don't know.
So creative.
It's like one of those, and we're gonna not pull any punch. We're gonna show you the whole thing.
These are
No
the best
shadows,
uses
no
of superpowers that I can think of.
Hey, it doesn't take away.
Homelander was like, he beamed that lady in the face, like just headshot for being like friendly with Starlight. The poor lady just wanted her almond joys. All right, Brian, I don't think this is a big spoiler. It's not gonna spoil something for you, but like Homelander sort of kills people in episode 4
It is a spoiler.
by using.
Surprise!
That's not a spoiler. So everybody knows that he kills people, but he does it sort of by picking on like an insecurity they had or some kind of like thing that they've done in the past that's like bad, and he just like uses that as like a way, like as part of the premise for how he's gonna kill them. So my question would be, if Homelander was your enemy, how would he kill you?
How would he kill me? Like in a torturous way?
Yes. He's like, this is your mistake, or this is your like biggest flaw, and he's gonna use that as like a setup for how to kill you.
This is a fun
Do you want me to go
question.
first? I can go first.
He's not just gonna like headshot us,
Right. No, he tortures
like
you.
How will I be
see where
tortured?
he's
How will I
coming
be tortured to death by Homelander is the question.
Yeah.
guys.
Like, it's specifically made for you based on your previous actions or your previous thoughts.
I'll make sure I do the
very.
I'll make sure I
That's
do
a
the
very
questions
deep
again.
question.
I'll make sure I do the questions next time, Brian.
Are we
That was
on
my fault.
the therapy couch right now?
Damn, what the hell? Can
All right.
I just give my answer?
Let me tell you where I think he would go. I think
Is this for me or for you?
This is for all of us. I think Homelander would kill me by taking apart a Chromebook. And for those of you who don't know what a Chromebook is, because you have a you have a MacBook or you have a Windows PC like an Asus or something like that. Imagine that it's like a laptop. It's like smaller and it's shitty. That's what a Chromebook is, okay? So it falls apart. It does have decent battery life, but like for some reason the kids at my school never have it charged. It can access the internet, but like you can't run like programs on it. So it's just like not the best experience. And then they like die after a year and a half, and the school has to pay for another one. So it's just a bad setup. And so what's gonna happen is I think Homelander would just take a whole stack of Chromebooks and like rip them apart until like it was just the screen, and the edges of the screen will be sharpened, and he's gonna like just whip them at me, and they're just gonna like lodge in my body parts until one hits my carotid artery, and I'm gonna die. And it'll be a death by Chromebook for making students work on these awful, terrible machines and telling them like, this is learning, this is preparing you for college. So that's
what the hell
what's
was
gonna happen.
this question/response? Brian, get your friend.
Wes was just looking for the most convoluted way to talk about how schools are underfunded and teachers are left to deal with it. I'm sorry. You are in the teaching profession in the United States.
Voluntarily.
Not a lot we can do.
I choose to be here.
My answer's simple.
Okay.
I would just say something to offend him so he just one shots me. I ain't got time
So
for
you're
this
trying
shit.
to speed it
I ain't
up.
got time for this shit. What?
I don't think he lets you go that easy though. He seems like someone who delights in the like torture of it. If you're his enemy.
I think in the context of the show, most people he actually has killed pretty quickly.
Yes, but not his people he's holding a grudge
So
against.
I disagree. When Butcher approaches him,
Why are you rejecting the premise of the question?
No, I'm saying
it's
I think
just a silly question.
No, when Butcher attacks Homelander at the hero gasm thing, Homelander doesn't torture him. He just one shots him with the laser to the chest, quick, clean over. He doesn't know that he's temped up on V and ate that like a champ. But
yeah.
I think there's a good track. And a girl who snitched, or he thought snitched. Homelander, a lot of times, if he just pissed at you, he'll just laser you real quick. So, say something offensive. Say he got mama issues or something, nobody love you, yada, yada. Laser, all right, let's get this over with. I'm about to play this game with you.
Remember when there was that Daredevil type character that they were setting up to join the Seven, and Homelander just hit him in the ears, and his ears were bleeding, and like suddenly that guy was useless or dead. I don't even remember.
That's why you say. That's why you say something. That's why you say something offensive. That's the
not
point.
Dumb. Say something offensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Got to poke the bear a little bit.
So Brian, do you want to answer this question? How would Homelander kill you?
I mean, just to make it interesting, like, I don't know that this is specific to me, but maybe he just like flicks me in the testicle and it shoots off like out of its sack and then into the air, and then he does like a Roger Federer overhead slam or overhead smash, and like with my own removed ball into the center of my forehead.
That's what kills you.
That's that is what does me in.
You're in it for a treat when you watch episode 4.
He does it
like you're more right than you realize.
Oh my god, do I win something?
Like Wes, I think you would agree, right? Like that's not exactly, but like you're.
We'll say
Homelander
tree. Does seem to be preoccupied with
the
crotchal area.
Okay, he also loves mother's milk, like actual mother's milk.
He does. That also shows up in episode 4 a little bit.
So this stuff tracks.
It does. I think that was a good answer. Well done, Brian. Kudos. I award points to Brian for most creative. It's the spike that really sent over. It wasn't the flick because that was part 1, but adding on the volleyball or Roger Federer spike, that's what really made that for me. So +1 to Brian on that question. Savan is unimpressed.
House Gryffindor. We're moving up.
House Redondo. All right. Okay, so we're reached the end. Will you keep watching this week by week, or is this something you're going to put on the back burner in favor of other shows? Savan, where are you at on this one?
I'm gonna watch it every week. I've been watching it. I mean, when it first came out, I watched the episodes fairly soon, and like I was eager to catch up and watch the most recent episode. So I'm gonna watch.
You're in.
I'm all in. I just but like I said, don't let my critiques earlier mean they think I don't like the show. I like the show, but this is one of those shows where the things I like about it, I'm very conscious of, and the things I don't like, I'm also very conscious of. So it doesn't mean that it's not good, but it's very much I know I'm here.
Okay. And I feel like you sort of made peace with those and are just like, I know that that's going to happen, but I'm not going to hold the show too much against that because there's all this other stuff I want to see.
The only thing I don't like about the show right now is that, again, I just think that some of the satire has the subtlety of a brick through a window. And that just makes what could be funny jokes fall flat.
All right. Yeah, it's not an in-group wink. It's like, oh, this is just like lifted from the Reddit headlines.
They took multiple.
You get it, right? You get it. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
It's like very much like that.
Like, I guess I have to make sure I didn't miss the point.
All right, Brian, are you going to keep watching this week by week, or are you kind of done with it?
So I've learned an important lesson from The Acolyte. I'm bringing back Star Wars. That show is not good, and it continues to be not good. However,
I haven't started it yet.
However, I've watched every episode.
Okay,
which is surprising even to myself.
Yeah.
And there's something that I've learned. And part of why I'm able to do that is that I just turn it on and I don't pay attention.
What?
I sort of know what's going on with the plot, and it's way more enjoyable that way. It's like you don't get stuck up on the writing, the
Yeah.
acting, the dialogue,
You're just smooth
the
braining
plot
it all the way.
holes. And it's like, oh yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, I want to know who the evil mastermind is.
That's it.
Spoiler, probably Manny Jacinto. So that
That eye
being
roll.
said, all the flaws of the boys. Right. As Savant said, don't care about Huey. Don't care about Frenchie.
Love Huey.
Don't care about
Love
Kamiko.
Frenchie.
I kind of don't care about Starlighter. But I love the Seven. I love everything that goes on with Vought. You know, I love the Butcher. Great stuff. You know, so I can enjoy the boys when it's firing on all cylinders on the parts that are actually important and relevant to the overarching plot and are a real treat to watch because of the way that they have set up the dialogue, have these ridiculous over the top scenarios for people to surprise you with and delight. And then whenever the boring stuff happens, you know, I can check out. I've learned something. Thank you, Star Wars, for giving me that.
And if you even if you weren't paying attention, you're not gonna miss out on much.
Exactly.
Like just keep it real. Let's keep it
It's
real.
totally inconsequential.
Mm-hmm. And Brian, I think you were having tech issues when I was making this point, but I was saying it's well acted. It's not poorly written. Like the characters themselves are
it's
cool
well
and interesting. It's not like I make it clear. It doesn't mean that it's bad, but it just pales compared to the other plot lines of this show, and that's just what happens in any show. You have a huge ensemble cast and so many people. Some characters are just going to be inherently more interesting. You know, this is all like Huey and them. It almost feels the way I felt about like the Samwell scenes in Game of Thrones, or you know, when they go to certain plot lines, you're like, oh, I don't care about this plot line. Like, let's get to the good shit.
Here?
Okay, I'll watch. I'll listen.
Why are we in a library?
Except it's even easier because this stuff really isn't consequential to the larger plot. I love Kimiko. Maybe they'll tie in her like former child warrior slave past stuff into like the larger plot, but like that ain't gonna have shit to do with the final battle with Vought. Unless it does, in which I'll admit I'm wrong, but like let's keep it a bean. It's not. Huey Mama drama is not gonna have diddly squat to do. Well, I don't know. Huey's the main character, so maybe they'll make it. But like, they could have. Who cares about that when Homelander? I mean, when you can watch Homelander be an awful parent. Like, if I want to see awkward parent dynamics, do I want to see Huey and his mama, or do I want to see Homelander and Ryan? Like, it's just there's levels to this shit. Or even A-Train and his brother. Like, that's really at least like.
That's way more interesting.
That's way more interesting than
or the Deep and his octopus. Give me more of that.
Yeah, or just
they need to do something though, rather than just talk at each other.
Yeah, that being said, they do be doing something. That's the worst part. I do want to say though, like I'm a huge Sister Sage fan. I like the character. She's so hard to read.
Yeah, where do we think she's going?
My fear about her is that she gives one season antagonist energy, and I feel like she's gonna get taken off the board the way Stormfront, the way Soldier Boy. They appear for a season, they steal the show, they're great, but they, for one reason or another, end up being out of the story now. And it's like, oh man, I actually would have liked to see what you could have continued to add if you weren't, dead and or drugged and or just written out of the story. So I feel like Sister Sage is gonna go that direction, but I hope I'm wrong because she is just a very interesting character because she clearly doesn't like a bunch of the Seven. She's low-key there under duress because Homelander really didn't give her a real choice of working with her. But she's not a good person by any means. So I'm just trying to, like, I don't know. I want to know her end game. It's very interesting. I don't think it's going to be one that Homelander rocks with. But that's what makes this really, but that's what makes it really fun. So I do want to highlight she's been a bit of a show stealer for me. Because she's such a great character in a show that actually doesn't have as much gray as you'd like it to have.
I'm also wondering.
You both are wrong. You're both wrong.
Are we wrong?
Yes.
I'm wondering though if Sister Sage actually has a greater master plan that Homelander isn't even aware of.
I think so.
Right? That she is actually playing him. I really hope that she is playing him and doing something completely unexpected, whether it's for her to take over Vought or whether it's for her to take down Vought. Like maybe she is actually on the side of the boys. We just don't know that yet.
There's a lot.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you sell her as, or you label her as like the smartest individual, then you got to be the smartest, and you got to plan for Homelander being like inevitably wanting to laser you. I mean, she knows that he wants to. She knows that he's going to eventually get to that point, and so what does she have in store, and how is she going to sort of like deflect Aikido that into something for herself?
She better be Ozymandias from Watchmen level smart,
like ready
and plotting, right?
Yeah.
Like if they keep branding her as smartest person on earth, that's exactly what we have to see.
So here's
just raising the bar for Black women to be more and more excellent. Can't even let her just like be her normal excellent self.
But A-Train already said in her intro episode, and I don't think it was a coincidence when he said, yeah, she's smart, but she doesn't know when to keep her mouth shut. Anyone who's played Dungeons and Dragons knows that intelligence and wisdom are not the same thing. And she also gives me vibes of a int build that maybe doesn't have the wisdom that it should have. But maybe I'm wrong. But like, unfortunately, she really does give me one season villain energy. And that's, to me, I really hope I'm wrong. But like, I want to see her in the end game of season 5. I don't want her to just be a cool one-off, one-season character. The Boys is really guilty of that a lot. And
yeah, I guess that's true.
I would rather more Sister Sage and Stormfront than effing Frenchie.
I don't think that she's done anything in particularly genius yet either. So we'll see. Hopefully she's got more up her sleeve, I think. But I agree that you're right, that she's intriguing, and what's in it for her in this whole thing is kind of a big question mark so far for us that I do want to find out, even if it's only for one season. The reason I think you're wrong, though, in terms of like the show is, yes, the plot stuff is interesting. Yes, like how are the boys going to take down Homelander or Vought or whatever, or attempt to and fail. It's also just the moments they've built between these characters. Like, I am just relishing them, and I know you guys are finding those parts to be like the least consequential. But I think that sort of sells it as like the only thing worth watching is like something that moves like the main plot line forward. But all of this stuff like builds the people in this as real actual people. And so when things happen to them, like you understand, like you are relating to them in a way that makes it seem like, well, I don't want them to get hurt, or I don't want them to die, or whatever, right? Like it's building your investment as an audience member that like I've just like really loved, and I think it's done it in a way that they hadn't focused on in previous seasons as well. And like you said, it's super well acted. So I don't know, I'm really enjoying the season. I think if you're someone who does enjoy getting to know characters, I think this season has been a step up in terms of that. Next show, we are gonna touch very briefly, lightly, a little flick to the testicles, so to speak, on House of the Dragon season 2, which has premiered and started, and we're all trying to watch that. And then we'll probably do a what we're loving. So no real homework for people out there. I don't think we're going to do too much of an in-depth on the House of the Dragon stuff because it's only going to have three episodes or so at that point. And I don't think there'll be enough for us to like totally sink our teeth into. So that's where we're at. No homework. Check us out. Tell your friends about us. Tell your friends about our show. We do want to get more people listening to this ridiculousness but awesomeness in 1,000 different ways. So enjoy, friends. We're out of here. Peace.